Well, the green wave light on the inside curb set at 27 minutes 40. That's 66.4 second laps on average as the rain starts to pour down here at Highgate. I'm sure this just adds to the drama. Couple of pacemakers thrown in the mix as well, as it's going to get quite bunched up in this first 200 metres, so hopefully we don't get any fallers. It's a heavy track.
Just caught sight of Jack Gray there. He had a fabulous battle with Adam Hickey at the England Championships on an event dubbed Fast Friday, which is almost trying to be a feeder for this event. This is such a difficult competition to get into nowadays, that there are more athletes who are inspired by this, want to run 10,000 metres on the track, and that is a sort of a brainchild following the success of Highgate.
Well, one of the great things about this meet, it takes all comers. It's not just these elite international athletes in this A race. We've had 6 men's 10,000 metres tonight, and stretching back to 2:15 this afternoon when we kick things off here at Highgate. We also had an inter-club junior competition where they ran a 10 1-kilometre relay almost earlier on.
You lads been sitting here since 2 o'clock?
Earlier than that, 1 o'clock.
You've put in a shift, I tell you what. Never mind about 10,000 metre racing, you've done a marathon commentary.
It feels like that, but it's been very enjoyable. The action on the track has been really exciting, even from the men's E-race, where 45-year-old robbed to victory in a huge personal best, and that was great to see. And
down the coming into the back straight here, but the crowd aren't dampening their enthusiasm. As just to remind you, if we haven't heard it yet, the wave light technology, reminding the athletes of where it's green or yellowish, the Olympic qualifying time, and the red light, the World Championships qualifying time as well.
2:47.58 at 1K, so, well, we were looking for what, 2:46 is 27:40 pace, so they're a second and a half outside that. Multiply that by 10 and you're not much inside 28 minutes. So I do hope they just crank it up a little bit, get back on schedule at the front end. You won't get many better condition races than this.
The green wave light on the inside curb just showing that marker pace for 27 minutes 40. It's the first time that technology's been used here in the UK. The IAAF looking to roll it out across some of their events later this year. That's a 65.9 second lap, and amazing to see so many of the crowd here still standing outside in that rain. It just goes to show how much they love the 10,000 metres here on the track at Highgate. The pace.
It's a very light drizzle, though, isn't it? You know, I mean, well, I say it's a light drizzle. I'm just holding my hand out into it from our marquee by the finish line. And it's a light drizzle, but it's the sort of drizzle that soaks you, if you know what I mean.
One of my old PE teachers, it's called wet rain. I'm not really sure what that means, but
his name?
No, wet rain. She used to call it wet rain, and I didn't really understand. It's very fine rain that gets you soaking wet, apparently. So I'm sure they'll be soaked when they come off the track, but it won't matter too much if they come away with a podium place in this European 10,000 metre Cup. That is the home straight marquee as the pacemakers Wold and Kiptaras bring them through just at the tail end of that 27 minute 40.
So they were 2:15 at 800. If they go 1600, we're looking for about 4:30. They're going through the finish line there, 4:27. So they have picked it up. That's good. 1600, 4:27.43.
Well, perfect 400 metre there, 66.38, just inside that 66.4 lap requirement for them to get inside that 27.40. That is, of course, the World Championship qualifying mark for Doha later this year. And Bukil Chi of Belgium, he's the front runner at the moment, but they're all stretched out over almost 60 metres or so worth of track, and it's going to be even more stretched out as the laps get put in. Chris Thompson there in the Aldershot Farnham District strip. He's not part of the Great Britain 6 this evening, going for that European Cup title.
So once again in the colours of Steph 12, but Aldershot Farnham District, that could bode well once again. It must be unusual for the athletes because obviously heavy rain throughout the race, apart from when you're covered by the beer tents, a chance to get in the dry. But as you say, Bushiki, who was 6th at the Europeans last year, and then you've got the European under-23 champion, Yaman Bahan Gripper of Italy, who came through as about 5th midway down the home straight in that race, an extraordinary finish to win that 5,000 metre title. So he's among the early pack, along with one of the Kayas.
Well, look at that rain as they go around the top bend. The lead is on for around about 27 minutes 50 finish time, but this is of course very early stages.
Well, that second kilometre was a 2:46.50, and we're looking for 2:46 exactly to run 27:40. So they're getting back on track. That second kilometre about a second quicker than the first, so not far outside the required schedule. Don't want it to slip much more at the front end.
Well, in terms of the Great Britain placings at the moment, Nick Gulab, the leading placer at the moment for Great Britain as they come back down the home straight. Crowds start to cheer. We heard a lot of cowbells earlier on that have been passed around here. You can hear them being rung around Parliament Hill. Still so many on the bank around this track here. There's Bukichi still at the front. It is really stretched out. It's going to be, I think, quite some time before the athletes start to make a break in a leading pack. Interesting to see, like the women's race, we saw one of the pacemakers go to 8 kilometres. I wonder if we'll get somebody go that far in the men's edition here.
Well, that is unusual. You know, it's very hard in women's marathon running to find a woman pacer, female pacer who can go much further than about halfway, because if they're that good at the front at 2:20 pace, 2:25 pace, they want to be in the race themselves and pick up some prize money. 10K, not too dissimilar an argument. If you can front run a 10,000 on the track to 8K, well, crikey, that's fairly logical. You should probably be in the race yourself. But, you know, some athletes say, well, a hard 8K is just what I need. I'm training for a marathon, or, you know, I've got a bigger 10K coming up in a few weeks' time.
Well, it's still single file as they come around the track. 18 laps to go, 7 down. This 25 lap spectacular here, just inside 67 seconds for that lap, so a bit slower than what they need.
You know, Crippa's a good young athlete, the Italian in the blue, in third place. Been watching him develop over this last 3 or 4 years. You know, I think he's a former European junior champion. He's got real pedigree, and he's worked hard to get to where he is. And he's now run world-class times at 5,000 and 10,000. And he is one of the real class acts in this field. I should be fascinated to see how well he goes here. He's in 4th place, in fact, in that blue of Italy.
Nick Gulab, the top Brit, you mentioned a little earlier. Connor is close to him, but Gulab had a bit of a breakthrough year in 2017 where he was part of the GB team for the European indoors, and then came second at the European Team Championships in Lille as well. But looking like he's having a good run. Lifetime best 10K, because he's not run on the track before. 28.22, so he's going 20 seconds faster than that at the moment. There's just there on the outside.
Well, just how difficult is it, Tim, for the athletes that have not ran a 10,000 on the track to transfer from 10K on the road like Nick Gulab?
Good question. I mean, road racing is very, very different psychologically, because you haven't got that constant, those lap splits coming at you all the time. And you know, that's why some athletes actually run faster on the roads than they do on the track, because they run more freely without that sort of burden of knowing about the clock all the time, and the monotony of lap after lap psychologically can be a negative for some people. But I think if you're in great shape, you're in great shape. And if you can run 10K very fast on the roads, you will definitely come out and run a good time on the track. Same applies, you know, if you're running great cross-country races, you can run a pretty useful 10K, 15K. If you're a great marathon racer and you're in great shape, you'll run a fabulous half marathon. So running is running. It's all one foot in front of the other. Now, that sounds like an oversimplification, but 10K on the road, 10K on the track, they're not massively different in their physical demands.
Well, the athletes here just beginning to drift off that 27:40 pace. The wave light on the inside of the track, you can see the green lights as our pacemaker Kiptaris makes a bit of a surge just to try and pick it up again. And it's still the Belgian athlete Bukichi leading the athletes.
It's teasing you, it's pulling away from you. Those lights must feel great when you're on track with them. We've been so spoilt across this evening, but the fact is at this point, you know, the leading athletes are slipping back from even their lifetime bests as well. It's been a very different story in the women's A race. They were on track for around 30 seconds faster to absolutely smash faster than they've run before.
Well, it was 8:21.07 at 3K, so obviously they're a little bit outside required schedule. We were looking for 8:18 at 3K. So they're 3 seconds behind that wave light, that yellow light that's going along the inside curb. They're a few meters ahead of the lead runners, but time to get back on track with it. If they can push on and chase down that wave light, then we'll be back on 27.40 pace. That predicted time at the moment, around 27.55.
Well, we saw the winner here last year go 27.36. That was Germany's very own Richard Ringer, yeah, and a great run from him. The fastest time we've seen at the night of 10,000 metre PBs over the last 6 years. Of course, this evening, the second year where the European 10,000 metre Cup has taken place, and European athletics certainly keen to try and get involved in these innovative meets. The recent DNA meet where it was held in Minsk, and this cheer and beer from lane 3 in Highgate, something of a real joy for the athletes on the track as well as the spectators, and people don't seem to be too bothered about the rain coming here. What a typical British summer this is for the men's 10,000 metre championship here.
Do you know, I spent half my life persuading colleagues in the USA that I work with several times a year that the British climate is actually not that bad. They go, it's all grey and rainy, and I go, no, it's not. We get great summers. The British climate is pretty good, especially London and the south coast and everything. And of course, on a night like tonight, where you want to see these pictures going out around the world in beautiful weather, the drizzle does come down. So it's a little disappointing, but I think conditions are still good. That 4th kilometre, by the way, 11:11.44, I think it was. So 2:50 for that 4th kilometre.
Well, most of the crowd seem prepared with umbrellas, thankfully.
Yeah, that is
also
coming. Yeah, very British, isn't it? Bringing in a brolly and a jacket just in case, or everybody takes a jumper with them in the summer, don't we? But the athletes seem to be enjoying it out there on the track, and it just adds to the atmosphere. It's dark now, the floodlights are brightening up the sky, and it's really good fun to watch for all the crowd. You can just see the glistening of the rain on the track, and Bukichi is a estimated finish time at the moment just outside 28 minutes, 28.03. A few trailing athletes here from the main leaders. We, from a British perspective, saw a great run from Alex Yee last year, the young athlete. He's 5th fastest all time here at Highgate. Not running this evening though, neither's Andy Vernon.
But Andy Vernon is here to support the event.
Yeah, and you were talking to him earlier in the Q&A, Tim.
Yeah, and Andy said, he's just had a few injury problems. He's got a hip problem at the moment. It's just held him back from being where he wants to be. He said if he could just get 4 or 5 months good solid training in, he'd be delighted and he could get back into very good shape. So he's not out of shape, he's just not in race shape. And in any case, his eyes now focused far more upon the marathon. He was hoping to run London back in April. He had to pull out with injury, but his eyes are focused on the marathon. So I was talking to him saying, what realistically is your next goal? And he said, London 2020. He thinks he'll take a few months to get over the injury and then build on 4 or 5 months of good training leading into the race. That's what you need. And you can't cut corners with marathon preparation.
Well, plenty of Brits in this race vying for that World Championship qualifying mark. I don't think they're going to get it today. The pace is just too slow. Perhaps not quite in the legs this evening. But it's all about the European 10,000 metre Cup here. British Championship title at stake as well.
Yeah, 14.02, that 5,000 split. We may well see negative splits. They could go under 28 minutes yet, but I think anything down in the 27.40 range would be very, very optimistic. You'd have to run astonishingly quick second 5,000 to get down into the sub 27.50 range. But I would like to see here, really, somebody like Cripper push on, because he should have the confidence after his last couple of years of progression against the clock to kick away from this field. And Salpetta tried it in the women's race and came unstuck. It wasn't anywhere near as good a run as last year, really, Salpetta, and she allowed Steph 12 to close up on her, and Steph was a spectacular and very deserving winner. But Cripper is a quality athlete, and sprinting away with a final 457, something like that here is, I'm not sure it's going to tick that many boxes for Cripper, without being fully aware of his schedule and his plans. I think he's the calibre of athlete who should now push on and test this field with a couple of hard laps and see who comes with him. It's
almost similar situation to the women's race, where we almost need the pacemakers to drop out so it turns into a bit more of a race, and we can see what Cripper and Kaya can do. And it looks as if Kaya now beginning to surge at the back of the pacemakers here.
Well, Ali Kaya, of course, former Kenyan rather, running for Turkey. Controversial character, controversial attitude from the Turkish Federation, who've signed up a load of Kenyans and Ethiopians in recent years to run in their colours at major championships, European championships and Olympics and so on. And a lot of people, and I think justifiably myself, I have to say, have a bad taste in their mouth over this. Now, the barn door has been open for several years, but the IAAF have closed it, and then they reopened it about 3 months back. But the IAAF have made it very clear they disapprove of this switching of nationalities and buying teams, in effect, like some of the Arab nations do, Bahrain and Qatar and so on. They've got teams just full of Ethiopians and Kenyans, and guess what? They get a few medals. It's not Premiership football. You shouldn't be just buying a team.
Well, I suppose Ramil Guliev is sort of a halfway house in that sense, in that he tried to get his most out of Azerbaijan, and then when he realised that the facilities are much better, the coaching and much better opportunity to make the most of his potential in Turkey, that's what he did. But still, he had the Azerbaijani and the Turkish flag acknowledging his roots when he won the world title.
Well, I was at the European Champion Clubs Cup last year, and the Turkish club that was taking part in that event, well, it was made up of various Kenyans, Ethiopians and imported athletes. As we try and stick with this, the pacemakers are out of this one, and Cripper is at the front, being closely trailed by Kaya. 28.08 the predicted finish time as it stands, but can they maintain this pace as they go into the final 4,000 metres rather?
Well, they have slowed. I mean, the last 3 kilometres, the 4th kilometre was a 2:50, the 5th kilometre was a 2:51. Remember the halfway split, 14:02. The 6th kilometre at 2:50. So they've dropped way outside the 2:46 splits we were hoping to see to get them through in 27:40. And this is now becoming it's a tactical affair mid-race. And I get the impression Kaya there in the blue, Cripper in the blue, glancing across at Kaya. It looks very relaxed, doesn't he, Cripper? He's a lovely looking little runner, very compact, economical style. But I would like to see him now test Kaya, and maybe the pair of them break away and really dominate this.
Nick Gulab of Great Britain still in the mix at the moment, just sitting there in 6th, trailed by his compatriot Connor as well. They're just need to stick with these leaders, Cripper and Kaya, taking them through at the moment.
The sort of European team competition is wide open at the moment, as you say. 2 Brits in what looks like the top 7. And you've got Cripper, and he has 2 teammates just on the lower reaches of the top 10. We may see them come through the screen here indeed. Elot Marnie and Dini as well coming through now. Well,
what a way to cut your teeth for Nick Gulab on 10,000 metres on the track here at Highgate. Chris Thompson has drifted some way back and is about 9 seconds away from that leading pack at the moment. Not where he'll want to finish this race, I'm sure, but at the front, Buchiki now takes to the front. The Belgian athlete just doing some work himself.
I'm glad to see this. I'm glad to see Buchiki. It would appear to have got the bull by the horn, so to speak. And he moves aside there and allows Cripper to come through. That almost looked like it was an arrangement. I don't know if they trained together or know each other or have spoken before the race, which is not necessarily a daft thing to do. Look, 3rd quarter, why don't we start taking a lap each and start pushing it on and testing them? And that would appear to be certainly what these two are doing. Cripper now hits the front. Buchiki slots in behind him, almost cycling style. And they really are stretching it now. Single file, and we're going to see gaps appearing.
Well, this is the leading peloton as we stick with the final 3 kilometres in this men's European 10,000 metre cup. Buchiki is leading them through at the moment. Him and Cripper sticking at the front, battling the rainy conditions here. Doesn't seem to be too breezy. Still nice and calm here at Parliament Hill. And they've opened up a 5 or 6 metre lead on Kaya, the Turkish athlete.
And the reason for that is because the 7th kilometres of 2:46, they'd slumped into a really relaxed tempo, 2:50, 2:51, 2:50 for the 4th, 5th and 6th kilometres. And they've just gone 2:46. They put in a big acceleration. And I'm surprised Kaya's not been able to cover that. I really am. The Turk there in 3rd place in the red vest, leading that quintet. That gap is growing and growing. And Cripper and Buchiki, will be aware of that. You sense when there's a gap like that. You can have a little glance out of the corner of your eye as well. Of course, that helps. But that gap's gone to, 10 or 15 metres in about a lap.
Well, we said we thought Kaya might try and close that gap, but it's Britain's Ben Connor who's taken the initiative. A little look on his inside, just noting where the likes of Gulab and Kaya are, but he's going to try and reel in Cripper and Buchiki. And you sense the atmosphere just building, the crowd appreciating this long distance event here at Highgate.
Well, there's still Cripper and Buchiki moving at a tempo that would suggest they're going to finish in 28:03, just outside 28 minutes. I rather think that if they keep winding it up this last couple of kilometres, they can go well below 28 minutes. I hope they do. It's nice to see that 27 figure at the front of their result.
Well, Britain's Ben Connor on for 28:06 would be a new lifetime best if he can hold on for this.
Yeah, one of few in this sort of leading group that are on for a lifetime best at the moment, and Gulab and Connor would run well together as a team almost.
Now Moen in 6th place is was the European record holder for the marathon. If that's the Norwegian Moen I'm thinking of, I think it is. And of course Mo Farah broke that record, got it back in British hands in Chicago last October. But Moen going really well here, and this augurs well for his future half marathons and marathon races. He's on schedule for something around 28:06. Moen, a fascinating character, spends most of his year out in Kenya training hard. But he burst onto the scene a couple of years ago after many years of injury as a youngster. And he's been sensational on the roads.
Well, Kaya, who was near the front of this field for the first 7 kilometres or so, is really drifting backwards now, and it's fallen to the British athletes, Ben Connor and Nick Gulab, to try and close the gap. And Cripper takes them through 5 laps to go here. That's the 8 kilometre point, 67.2 that last lap there. Just trying to hold on with that pace at the moment.
The courage of the British athletes, just like we saw with Steph Twell in particular, has been fantastic to see, pulling their way through. Ben Connor, you know, a fantastic opportunity for him to be part of this team in front of this great home crowd that's really not feeling let down by the weather here and is ready to cheer them on until the end.
Well, their 8 kilometre time, 22:26. It was a 2:48, their 8th kilometre. So again, they've slowed a little bit, and that I think is why Ben Connor, leading the charge of the pack behind, has closed up on them a little bit. Really impressive run from Ben Connor. He's working hard. He's not exactly floating, but he's on schedule now for 28:05, is that? And that time will carry on coming down if he can wind it up in the last mile. What a great run from him. Look, he's isolated now behind that leading trio.
Well, Emmanuel Petros from Germany has closed the gap. He was sitting silently in that pack earlier on, but has now closed the gap on Buchiki and Cripper. Ben Connor just sitting on his shoulder, some 2 metres adrift. He needs to try and keep in touch as we enter the final 4 laps here. 68 on the dot. They're slowing just slightly. You get a sense that they might be building for something big in the final 800 metres or so.
And once again, it's a chance for the spectators to really feel what's happening in this race in the final stages. You saw the pyrotechnics go up by the start-finish line, because symbolising we're in the last few laps now. I think they did that from 5 laps to go, but it means that everyone here is really building the excitement towards the cauldron atmosphere that we'll hopefully have in the last couple of laps.
Cripper at the front again, Buchiki, Petros of Germany. That's a name I'm not familiar with, but he's giving a good account for himself. And Cripper has the option of going hard here with some 3 laps to run, or biding his time. He's got good speed, we know that. But has he got better speed than Buchiki? He may not know Buchiki that well. We don't know if he knows Petros. And of course, if you leave it to a sprint, you leave it to a burn up over the last 200 or 300, it's a bit of a gamble if you haven't really done your homework. Well, great to see Ben Connor hanging on to that trio, isn't it? A new British name making a breakthrough here.
Well, he might not have the strength or finishing speed of some of the athletes in front of him, but he's putting himself really in the mix. Certainly at the front of the British rankings at the moment in this race. Could become British champion here. He's somewhere ahead of Nick Gulab by 5 or so seconds. And Cripper, look how comfortable he looks at the front here. Buchiki just grimacing a little bit, and it's Cripper of Italy at the front leading it, looking composed as they approach the final kilometre.
2:48, that 9th kilometre, 25:14. So it will be close to being negative splits this race, and it depends how much pace they can put on in this last couple of laps, because you can make a dramatic difference to your finishing time. Finishing time for Cripper at the current split rate is 28:03. What can they do for the final 800?
Well, Buciki has drifted 5 metres back, and it's down to Petros and Cripper. Ben Connor sitting in fourth. He might be able to reel in Buciki over this final 800 metres, but it's a two-horse race now with just over 700 metres to go. Cripper looking strong. Petros, well, where's he come from? He was silent for the first 8 kilometres of this race, but really put himself in the mix here.
Well, it was extraordinary. The European Under-23s 2 years ago, Cripper showed he had a fantastic kick, showed it once again at the Europeans, where he got a bronze medal last year, but has it been run out of him yet? Is Petros any fresher as he grits his teeth coming through the final stage of this race? Such a congested field as we look down the back straight, the crowd really getting excited. Can Cripper hold on?
Buciki's fading and Connor's moved up to third, the British athlete. Cripper looking quite relaxed at the front at the moment. Petros grimacing somewhat as they come in to the final 400 metres. We're going to be in for a fast last lap here at Highgate for the night of 10,000 metre PBs. This is the European 10,000 metre Cup. Here comes the gong. It's Cripper leading Petros through. Petros still on his tail, digging deep as the rain pours down here at Parliament Hill.
The Italians also on track for that gold medal, first, 7th and 9th, even though the Brits have closed up to 3rd and 6th.
Ben Connor putting in a really good run here. He's somewhere ahead of Buciki in third, but he's well adrift of second.
You know, you talked a few laps ago about Ben Connor heading for 28.06. He's going to break 28 minutes. I mean, they've gone through the bell in 26.51. This is brilliant from Ben Connor.
200 metres to go, and Petros, the German athlete, is taken to the front. Cripper might just be holding something in for the final 100 metres. Taking a look at some of the athletes as they're coming into the back straight. And it's going to be Cripper, the Italian, that's coming through to take this one. Petros didn't have enough in the tank, and it's Cripper who takes gold here in the European 10,000 metre Cup. Great run from Petros, the German, who gets second. I think Ben Connor might just dip under 28 minutes in third. A great run from the Brit. Well, Cripper, he looked composed throughout that race. And it was the Italian that took gold. They could well be on for taking the European Cup title as well.